everybody. It's great to see you back again for Textile Talks. We have a great talk coming up. I'm Martha Seelman. I'm the Executive Director of Studio Art Quilt Associates, otherwise known as SAQA, SAQA. And we are one of the 4 organizations who put on Textile Talks. And we pretty much rotate every week. So we're really excited that this is our week again. I wanted to invite you to consider becoming a member of SAQA. We are a membership organization. We have about 4,300 members around the world. Everybody is just passionate about art quilts. We provide our members with a wealth of resources, educational materials, webinars, seminars, a beautiful quarterly journal, and lots of opportunities to network with other art quilt artists from all over the world. If you are interested in membership, please go to SAQA.com and look through all of the things that are on the website. There's over 4,000 quilts for starters. And if you're interested in joining, because you are watching Textile Talks, if you use the discount code TALKS, TALKS, you'll get $20 off of a new membership. So today, I am very excited because we are having a presentation by Alex Anderson from the Quilt Show. And as we were preparing for today's talk, they were going through how they got started, and you'll see this in a minute. And what it reminded me of is when I'm talking to my children or my grandchildren, and I'll talk about, well, the rotary phone, or before there were computers, or when there wasn't a GPS in your car telling you where to go and you had to do a map. Because when Alex and Ricky got started, it was the really early days of being able to present this kind of content through the internet. And they were real pioneers. And as the industry has grown, what they can share with us has grown as well. And it's just really exciting to see how the show has grown over time. So Alex, if you'll turn on your video camera, we'd love to hear from you.
Thank you, Martha. Thank you so much. First of all, I'm delighted to be here with quilters all over the world. How exciting is that? The other thing I want to say is that when we scheduled this initially and chose the date, Ricky was all on board, and then he found himself in Portugal with family. However, we got some video with him, and he sends his regards and thanks all of you for coming today. So let's take a look at the PowerPoint that we have created to let you know who we are.
Yeah, and I just want to say there's some embedded video, and as all of you audience members know, sometimes when we embed a video through Zoom, it gets really bouncy. That's going to happen a little bit. Don't worry, the recording that will go up on YouTube will look beautiful. This is just because Zoom compresses files and just to make it possible to watch live. So Alex, let's do it.
Let's do it. Thank you so much, Martha. Well, first of all, the Quilt Show isn't anything that we envisioned a long time ago, and Ricky will get into that, but it has become, because it's on the internet, it has become an ultimate resource, thequiltshow.com, for quilters and creators today. And what we're going to do is go through what we offer to you to help your quilting experience. And Kristen's going to be taking care of the movement of the images. So Kristen, next one, please. All right. What I love about the Quilt Show is basically we're there to entertain, we want to teach. We really, truly inspire creative growth. And then something we never really considered was community. Because we were on the web, and it wasn't on television, there's an interactiveness that would simply not be possible any other way. And well, let's just go take a look at the next image. Okay, so where we're at now, we started in 07, all right? We've got almost about 500 shows at your fingertips, and every show comes out about every 2 weeks, twice a month or whatever, and now there's just a plethora that you can choose from for your own personal learning experience. What's so interesting is you would think, how much more can I learn about this craft? Well, I've been in this craft for over 40 years and I continue to learn totally. And so the shows are like network quality, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But also, in addition to the shows, which you need to have a membership for, which is only $50 a year, we have lots of learning going on. So we have things like different classrooms with different guest teachers. A lot of this is free, all right? What I didn't anticipate, as I just mentioned, was the global connection that we would have with quilters worldwide. I am connecting with people, and our members are connecting with people that they might not even have connected with before. In fact, when you were loading on, I saw South Africa here. I saw different places. What the internet can offer us today is just absolutely astonishing, which makes the quiltshow.com very organic and changing on a constant level. We want to inspire you. And I guess I'm going to talk about me a little bit here. I have been so inspired by what's been on the Quilt Show that honestly, it has changed my quilting paradigm. How I quilted before then is not how I quilt now. Ricky and I and Lilo and Kristen, well, the crew, we are responsible for who the guests are on for the show. And we are very careful that we balance everything from art to tradition. There's something for everybody in every single store. I'm sorry, store. I'm looking at the next one. In every single show. We also have a store, and we curate what's in the shop. We want to have the best products out there for you that you can, work with, sew with, create with, etc. We don't just have an all-purpose store. We choose things that we think will help your quilting experience, and also things that tie into the show. So next one. Okay, here's Ricky.
So Ricky, everybody wants to know, how did we get started? How did we meet, etc.? There is a story.
I went up to Bernina and just said, I'd like to do maybe a new television show, a new kind of a concept, a bit more entertaining, but also live audience and so forth. And Bernina actually was willing to make a pilot. But I believe that was in 2005. And then it was at that same time that you got the axe from Simply Quilts. You guys, Alex didn't quit Simply Quilts. It's like every other TV show in the world.
They
at
run
some
a
point
season.
they run and then they're done.
11 years.
It was a long time. And so I kind of went, I wonder if Alex would want to work with me, but I didn't say anything.
And
then,
we knew each other too.
And you ended up calling me like in January of 2006, and you said something to the effect of, I don't know, it was something about you wanted to do in video production for a
I wanted
DVD,
you to do it, yeah.
like something like that. And I just said, can we stop that conversation for a moment, because I'm curious about something else. And because Alex was such a celebrity on Simply Quilts, I was a little hesitant to say, but I said, would you be willing to maybe duo a show, co-host a show with me?
But my big deal was, how will we be on camera together?
Because you ended up flying to La Vita, Colorado, and we did our own screen test. And we were planning to probably spend about an hour doing a screen test, and we did what, 3 minutes, 5 minutes?
10 minutes max.
I can't have enough. I mean, my fabric stash is, should I call it a stash or a collection? I kind of get confused. I've heard people say, if you call it a collection, you don't have to use it, because a stamp collector wouldn't use their stamps.
Or a coin collector wouldn't use their coins.
That's right.
So there's your permission right there, folks.
We knew
this was going to work.
Yeah.
So now let's talk about it. She was asking what network would be on. I said, I don't know what network, because let's just pitch it out there. But you came to La Vita with John's, her husband's, suggestion that try the web. And this is 2007.
This was like, it wasn't happening. They were replaying video on the web, but content was not being made for the web.
Not a real show, no.
but maybe pornography.
Yeah, that was about all there was on the web that was being made for the web.
Right.
And so, as crazy as that may sound, we ended up talking about the pros and cons of trying to go with a network versus doing this on the internet.
Network,
Yeah.
internet.
And it ultimately boiled down to we would own the shows, we could say what we wanted to say, we could address topics and issues, I mean, such as breast cancer. You know, we could deal with these topics that HGTV would not allow. And then also we would be able to be seen worldwide.
That was monumental.
Yeah.
And I know everybody watching, we're all over the world here.
We're already well over 400 shows, 450 shows over all these years. And last but not least, no network would be saying, sorry, thank you for the run, we're done. We could run this as long as we could. And here we are, we're talking to you right now in 2023. We're 16 years into this and still planning to continue going thanks to our sponsor, Bernina, primarily. Yeah. So that's how it got started, quiltshow.com, and we have loved the ride.
Next. So let's just wind it back a little bit. When Simply Quilts got canceled, my girlfriend, Joan Wolfram, some of you might know her, just said back, she said, just sit back and wait and see what doors open. Don't make any moves. Don't make any decisions. Just sit back and relax, which I had to do because I had a non-compete. And one of my things was that I didn't want it to be YouTube. I wanted it to be network quality. And so we were lucky enough to actually have a couple people from HGTV come and work with us. We, in the end, ended up with a producer who's been with us forever, who has done things for Oprah, for Dr. Phil. So she was not a quilt, well, she's still not a quilter, but she's not a quilter, but she embraces the art of quilting. She's bought some quilts. So, I mean, she hasn't bought fabric yet. And she embraces the story behind the quilts and the quilters. And we're able to bring you all of that because we own it. We, the quilters of the world, own it, and we can do what we want to do whenever we want. And that's kind of, we kind of have a tiger by the tail. Okay, next one, Kristen. You know, what happened, I think, was after September 11th, HGTV, this is my perception being a host at that point, we had to stay away from subject matter that perhaps might make people uncomfortable. And I get it, okay? But we know, we makers, that making really reaches in so many places that you might never think of. So for instance, I think it was the third season, we went to San Francisco General and they had a program. I don't even know, I think I heard about this on a bus going from here to there. They had a program called the Great Cover-Up Program. And basically we went into the Department of Psychiatry, and when people come out of there and they are, I don't know what the word would be, when they've been helped, they have the opportunity to make quilts and they sell these quilts. And it was really astonishing to see how quilting transformed these people's lives. It's in season 300. And I'm going to say the other thing, Ricky was responsible for that field piece, and it was absolutely beautiful. So here quilting is reaching people probably most of us don't even think about. Next slide. Here's another story that was just, it touched everybody. Nola Emery is a quilter. She really knew nothing about quilting, but she was scuba diving and she had a massive stroke, and it changed her. It actually has paralyzed 1/2 size of her body. And when she came out of it, she decided she was going to be a quilter. She figured out how to quilt, how to knit, how to do all of this with only half of her body working. And what was so remarkable was that this is a quilt behind her that she has done since the stroke, and it would put my work under the bus. All right. So Nola Emery is somebody that spoke to all our hearts. And then what was really cool, when we were able to have an audience, before COVID, she would come every time with her husband, and we would play this particular piece. If you're having a rough day, search Nola Emery and it will make your heart sing. Next slide. Now, Candace is a phenomenal quilter. She has an acoustic neuroma tumor on the nerve of her ear, which affected her balance and hearing in 2006. What she found at that point was that she really couldn't weave anymore, but she transitioned her creative outlet into quilting. And I know there are a lot of us out here, because this is textiles. It's not just quilting that, well, for instance, I was a weaver in college. We transitioned from one sport to another, and the quiltshow.com can help you make those transitions. You can watch a show and go, oh, I'm never going to do that. Or you'll go, well, maybe I'll give that a try. So it's a beautiful window into your creative opportunities. Next slide. Another thing that was very, very dear to me that we got to cover was Alzheimer's. Many of you know both my parents suffered from this horrible disease that affects a whole family. And we were able to go and do a segment on activity mats. Now, how did I know about activity mats? I went to an event in Tucson, Arizona, where 300 activity mats were made for the Alzheimer's community down there. So I came home and made one for my mom, of which her favorite little thing in it was, in the white with the red polka dot, a little stuffed cat. That's what she would take in and take out. I also, in the bottom right, have one of her favorite sterling spoons tied into it. So I don't think she thought this was too wonderful. However, my dear friend from college works in an Alzheimer's senior center, and I shipped it to her so she could pass it on to other people. I would not have even known this sort of thing existed. Next. And then we were able to share it with you. So, okay, what are the goals for us? Initially, it was just, let's create network television for the internet. Oh, and let me tell you this. When we got our check from Bernina, and never forget, this is a snapshot, a bubble shot. We were at the top of the stairwell at Ricky's studio, and he said, I'm going to tell you something. And he said, don't get shook up. We're on it. But to deliver this the way we want to deliver it is going to be something like $300,000. He said, don't freak out. Okay, I'm not going to freak out. I mean, we don't have that kind of money. Who does have, I'll just write you a check for 300,000. And actually, Germany was the one that came up with how we could do it for a reasonable amount so that our dream could go forward. So let's go through goals. Next. Okay, so goal number one. Oh, there's David. I love him. We want to share a broad variety of quilters, styles, and topics. So that means we will push it all the way from super traditional to artsy. I feel that our audience is a little more sophisticated or down the quilting road than a lot of quilters, though beginners love us and they use us as a resource to get their feet wet and get into it. But if we get a complaint that it's too arty, and then we get a complaint that it's too traditional, we know we're doing something right. And it is our joy to be able to bring all of these creators to you. Next. We also zero in on world-class quilters, and that's one of the ways we can share. So we want to honor quilters who have created pathways. So for instance, we all loved Gwen Marston, and sadly, she's no longer with us, but we did a piece with her, and she really taught us, to me, she's the foremother of the modern movement. Break the rules, have fun, don't get all weird about the whole thing. And for me, my quilting, I was getting a little bit weird about the whole thing, about perfection. And this was just completely liberating. If you knew Gwen, you loved her. Next. Another person that we all know and love was, of course, Yvonne Purcella. The late Yvonne. When I think about when SAQA was started, she started it, you know, I would be with her and she would tell me about this pipe dream that has turned into an incredible reality for art quilters everywhere. I know that if Yvonne was watching right now, she'd be smiling. We also, and I'm going to get down to this a little bit, but we do, in the past, before COVID, we did legend shows. And we did a legend show on Yvonne. And it was actually in the middle of her battle with cancer. And it was a remarkable, remarkable show. And she just shared so effortlessly, which we all know Yvonne always did. Next. Okay, Jackie Gearing, she's also, I'd say, the godmother of the modern movement. And I remember she was on the show and Ricky was having a hard time wrapping his brain around the modern movement, because I think in the beginning it was kind of all over the place. And Jackie so generously shared the whole thing. And it was like the light bulb went on for Ricky. For me, there was a segment on straight line quilting, and it was life-changing for me. Hey, I was a hand quilter. What do I care about machine quilting? Well, I actually have a Q20 sitting right next to me right now, but Jackie has contributed so much, and you can watch her show. Actually, her show, I don't want to say it's one of my favorites, because that would be a horrible thing to do, but it's among some of my tops, all right? Oh, so, okay, so you get on the quiltshow.com and you wanna find these shows. You just, pay your money to watch the shows, again, only $50 a year. And then there's a search bar. And you type in her name in the search bar, and it will take you to an area where you can watch a show, where you can see quilts, where you can learn about it, etc. So it's not like you have to scroll through almost 500 shows to figure out who you want. You just go type it in. Boy, enter it, please. There you go. Okay, next one, please. The late Sue Garman. Oh, I'm so glad we have these people in our coffers. She was out of the Houston area, and she's a very well known and honored teacher. Lilo found her in the beginning. Well, no, not in the beginning. I'm going to say maybe 500 series. And that's when the Quilt Show decided to do Block of the Months. And Sue graciously offered to design the Block of the Months, write the beautiful instructions, and then our members could have access to this pattern for free. And how that works is so like next year, we already have our person. It will be announced very, very soon. I'm very excited. When you become a member, you have free access to the pattern for a year, and then they goes back to the maker. So Sue Garman's Block of the Months, her kids still sell it, I think go for about $100, but for the year that she was doing it, you paid your $50 and you had it all for free. And we've gotten to the point now where we've got video that accommodates and all that. She's first class quilter that we sorely miss, but we still have her at thequiltshow.com. Next. Here's another legend. We went to Michael James. We went to him at the International Museum in Lincoln, Nebraska, and he was one of our legends. I can remember back when he kind of entered into my paradigm, he was breaking all the rules and pushing the boundaries to make us all better quilters and to open our eyes as to what was possible. So thank you, Michael, for that. And the visit with you was wonderful. We also got to sneak peek inside the museum, even in the vault. Okay, next. Jean Wells is a personal friend of mine, and she was also a legend. She founded the outdoor quilt show in Sisters, Oregon. In fact, this year is the 49th this summer, second Sacred Saturday in Sisters, Oregon. And I can remember, I've known Jean for a long, long time. She actually has changed her complete look. She did very traditional things because she was teaching people how to quilt. Her thing was to bring in new quilters. And then she transitioned like to sunflowers in 2018. And now, no, that wouldn't be 2018. Whoops, sunflowers is from early on. And then like this nest quilt. Her work now is so organic, so beautiful, so wonderful. And also when we celebrate these people, it's not only to do an expose on them, our legends, but we also have them teach you something. So you're always learning with us. Next. Katie. I remember when Katie came to EVHQ, and it was one of her first speaking gigs, and she was into mandalas. And I would say that Katie is a true organic artist and a wonderful person, but she always is pushing and doing something new and expanding, etc. And she runs around teaching. So she opens her doors to us and her heart and mind to us. But we also chose her as a legend. I actually want that Cheers quilt. Next. Okay, and then we have Kestrel, who actually, she just taped a show with us. I was not there because of my medical condition, breast cancer. I'm fine. And Ricky actually started crying after the show because she's so touched him, and the way she works is so different. So Kestrel, I think the raven quilt is what took Ricky out of his seat because he loves his ravens. So Kestrel, I would not even be aware of this sort of work if it weren't for the quiltshow.com. And by the way, if we don't have sizes up, it's because we don't know. We did our best. Next. Oh, Victoria. Yeah. She came on a long time ago, and it was when she started with her 15 minutes of play. And that was just to sit down and sew and just sew and basically make fabric. And then I'm sure most of you know that that right hand quilt, the wedding ring, I believe won the very first Quilt Con. And she is also an innovator. I love how she works because she blends traditional with modern. And I love this self-portrait of her, but she is an amazing artist to watch. If you haven't, really seen her work, it'd be worth searching her on our website. I believe we've done a couple shows with her. Next. And then not everything would be a quilt. Here we have Susan Else, where she does sculptural things with fabric. And she is a very interesting woman. I love that it becomes three-dimensional. We did a whole show celebrating her. And also, I'm going to say on her show, I believe we went out to her little camper, and that's all set up for quilting too. But I love that this is taking fabric to a completely new level. Next one, please. And then we have Lilo, who's sitting here right now. Lilo I think she was our first real employee. And Lilo is responsible for a lot of our content. She has put out a book and did a whole thing on your quilting space. And she talks about people like Nola, people with unique disabilities and how you can work about them. She talks about aging and what you can do to make it so that you can keep doing your art. She's been on the show itself several times, and what you would do is you would just go up again in the space bar and search bar and put in Lilo Bowman. Next, please. Oh, I want to say that's Lauren Volchek's studio we were just looking at, which, by the way, apparently changes a lot. Okay, so we'll do things that are kind of off the grid type deal. So this is Natalia, and she uses plastic in her quilts. So, okay, what are the things around me that I can use to incorporate, to put into my creative palette to do something different? I was not there at that show. I'm very sad about that, but I watched it. Next. Oh, and then we have Carly Porter. Okay, so Carly is a young mother who is in the Utah area, and she grew up in an area where you might experience a lot of graffiti. And so she took the graffiti knowledge that she has and then took it into quilting. I would have never thought of that. Oh, but I might now because of Carly, and she's adorable, and she's raising 2 young kids, I think. I think we're still at 2. Next. Okay, so number 2, to support learning and creative growth. It's no good if we're just sitting there doing the same thing over and over and not pushing ourselves, because that's how you learn. Next image. So there are guests on that do things that I would not have even thought of. And this is Lois, I'm going to say Lois P, show 1907. And I appreciate how she was doing this circle quilting. Would not have thought of it. Next. Oh, and then Sherry Rogers Harrison. I wouldn't have thought of this. She stitches all the quilting and then goes in and paints the pieces. And these pieces are absolutely phenomenal. The other thing you could do is not just type Sherry Rogers Harrison into the search, but you could put show 1904 and it'll take you right there. Next. And then Katie Fowler. Okay, who will forget Katie Fowler? Katie is a creative follower. She is not a person who cares about the product. She cares about the process. She's come. I'm hoping the next slide is the next slide we're going to talk about. Let's take a little peek, Kristen. Yes. Okay. So she made this quilt for a show, and it was hanging on the back wall, and the quilt was wonderful. And the whole theme was Alice in Wonderland. And she takes you down the rabbit hole, the what ifs, it's what ifs. She literally took that quilt off the wall and rotary cut it to pieces. People in the audience were like, I think a couple people cried because they couldn't believe it. Well, she came back later on another show and had the finished product, and it was better than this, if that's even humanly possible, because for her, it was the process. And I think so many times we get into our art and it's, well, what am I going to do with this? What am I doing? Forget it. Just enjoy the process. Thank you, Katie. Next. So when the pandemic started, I was in Los Angeles, and John and I were shut down on an event, and we came home and he said, you need to get on the internet. And I'm like, I don't want to get on the internet. Well, I got on the internet, and what happened was that I started teaching, and people from all over the world joined in. This was free. This is on Facebook and this is on YouTube. And it was Monday, Wednesday, Fridays at 10 o'clock Pacific time. I believe this might have been our second project, and it was called the CAIF Mystery Quilt. And what we did was we sold CAIF bundles in the store and a little book with different blocks in it. And we all made our own quilt. And it was so funny because people would say, so typical, well, what are we making? Well, what size is it? And I kept saying, I don't know. It's a mystery. It's a mystery to me. I'm not there yet. And halfway through, I thought I was in trouble because mine was really ugly. And then I pulled it together, and then I saw stuff that other people did because we were sharing online. I call us a world guild on my lives. And it was phenomenal. Right now, we're working with silk ties. I don't know what the other people are doing. I don't know. I barely know what I'm doing, but there's a level of sophistication with our people that allow us to say, let's go. So that was super fun. I think we've probably done about 5 or 6 projects, if not more, during the pandemic. And again, that's free. Next. Okay, block of the months. I mentioned that earlier. You can see Wendy Williams there in the front right, and then Sarah Filkes. These patterns were free to whomever was a member during that time frame. And we teach as well as we can. Barbara Black has stepped in and will do a live once a month to help support it. We have message board where we can, our forum where we can all ask questions. It's a very, even though it's on the internet, it's a very unique community together. Next. And then Lilo, a couple times we throw her an assignment, okay? And because she has a lot she has to do. And she did a whole thing on the art of quilting design. This was a college course, and I believe this was free too. Now I'm going to say this, what you want to do at a minimum is get on thequiltshow.com and sign on for the newsletter, because if you snooze, you lose. And that is the truth. Okay, next. As I say, we have a world community. I'm going to look at the next image. We did a project called, oh wait, I'm going too far to me. Yep. Okay. We have teachers from around the world. Let's just chop that part out right there. Okay. So we have Alyssa that was from Ukraine that's been on, Natalia from Russia, Catherine from UK, Olga from Spain, Priscilla from Guatemala, and Maya from Israel. Next slide. These people come to be on the Quilt Show. Rami from Korea, Sujata from India, Claudia from Germany. Oh, this is bad. Okay. Rasha Delazy. I'm gonna slaughter that. I think that show is when I was out because we had to learn these names. Kumiko from Japan, and Jacqueline de Jong from the Netherlands. So although we are, super United States based, we have people coming in to be on the show from all over the world. Where can you get that? Next. Oh, here's more. Yoko, and then Lucian from China, Kathy from Canada, Julia McLeod, now I'm going clockwise, from the UK, Rosa Roja, she changed my life, and Colette from Canada. We love it when we can really represent who we are as makers in the world. Next. Okay, so at one point, Ricky had this brainstorm and it was brilliant. We did an international miniature quilt exchange. And basically what we did was we had United States people put in your name if you want to play. And then if you're in another country, put your name in if you want to play. And then people were paired up. These, I believe, were about 20 inches. There was a size thing on it. And in fact, these two got each other's names. And Rhonda ended up going over to Ukraine to meet Natalia. So, I mean, how wonderful is that? Next. Here are some more people that got buddied up, and a lot of these people became very, very good friends. Some of the people chose a theme, some did not, but the results were astonishing. And I believe the results were at the Houston International Quilt Show, I'm going to say maybe 5-6 years ago. Next. So what's coming up at thequiltshow.com? This is really exciting. Okay, we had created an exhibit for Road to California. And what the ladies did on our team was they put the QR code on each particular quilt, and you could take a picture of that QR code and then get a snippet on how they did the technique that they did in that quilt. And we chose very unusual techniques. So if you took that with your camera right now with your QR code, it'll give you a little sneak peek of what we're going to be doing next year with AQS. And we've secured an opportunity where all the key AQS shows will have an exhibit from the quiltshow.com where you can go and QR code it and then see how these things were made. Very exciting. Who would have thought this possible? Okay, next. Here we
I
go.
am so grateful, Alex, that the Quilt Show and the sponsorship of Bernina, we've had other sponsors along the way, but people have believed in us so that we can bring the voices of people forward.
And I have to say too, it's kind of like a Netflix type deal. It is a paid for subscription and it's pennies for what you get.
Yeah, truly.
Okay.
So if you're not a member of the Quilt Show, we would invite you to come and be a part of us. It's a worldwide community. I think that people have found friends.
Just like who's watching right now.
Exactly.
Okay.
You guys have been great.
Next. So please let us be a resource for you. I'm just going to bullet point it. 2 new shows every month, and you have access to all of them, right? We have my classes. I'm doing it now Monday, Wednesday on Facebook and YouTube. We have streaming video lessons, the online community. Again, that's the thing I never anticipated. And also you're going to get a newsletter 4 times a week, and you're not going to want to cancel it. If people don't get their newsletter, they get very upset because one of the things in it is a puzzle. But that's the way you can know if we're giving away a Bernina, if we're doing this special thing or that special thing. You want to be on our newsletter. That's free. And again, access to high quality tested tools and products. So this is a far cry from what happened in 07. This just is something for the internet. Next. So how can you become a guest on the Quilt Show, you might ask? We are always looking for artists. You've got to be a teacher. All right. You got to be a teacher and know how to present your craft. What you would do is you will submit a proposal to Lilo, and you'll see her name down at the bottom. Put in 2 or 3 topics that you would like to teach and maybe what you're most famous for, because I would hate it if you need to be on the show, but we're already doing this one thing that's been booked for that group of taping. And so then you get knocked out. So if you can give us a couple different choices, that would be great. We'd also like to see a minimum of 3 works. And so we know what your style is. So if you're putting together a package is what you're doing. It doesn't have to be big and fancy like a book proposal, but who are you? And then of course, links to your internet presence. We get a lot of people by surfing. We do a lot of surfing at the Quilt Show. Again, Lilo at thequiltshow.com. Next. So when we're done here, I'm going to take questions right now. I can't even see the questions, but I believe Lilo's monitoring them. And I invite you from the bottom of my heart to expand your quilting experience and creativity experience at thequiltshow.com. Next. Thank you. Hey, I'll throw it back to you, Martha, okay?
All right. Thanks, Alex. One of the things that I so love about working with you is how enthusiastic and excited you are about every single artist that you work with. It's contagious. It's fun. You and Ricky both are just fantastic ambassadors for quilting. Yeah.
Thank you.
There were a couple of logistics questions. First of all, do you and Ricky still own the Quilt Show?
Oh yeah. If you want to buy it, let us know. No, and actually it's not just Ricky and John. I mean, Ricky and me, it's also John, my husband, and Justin, who was Ricky's former partner, because Ricky has gotten remarried to Hugo and Justin has gotten remarried too. So it's all good. We're a family. We are a family, and we all bring something different to the plate. The fact that Ricky and I are so different is actually wonderful, because he sees it with this color glass, I see it with this color glass, and then he'll say, it's not or, it's and. I love that.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, definitely. And I do think that that's the dynamic that really brings a lot of energy to the Quilt Show, is how you do that. There's another logistics one. Where do you do your taping?
Well, I'll try and do this Cliff Notes, okay? We used to do it in Colorado and we could have an audience. And then that particular studio closed down. So we moved to Texas and we found a wonderful facility that we could also have an audience, and then COVID struck. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. And before Colorado, we were in La Vida in Ricky's studio. So we went to Texas, a beautiful studio, COVID. Okay, some of the shows we have masks on. I mean, we did the very best we could. But then there were 3 studios at that place. And to be in a studio is very expensive, very. And so we got put to the medium size studio and we thought maybe we could get some people in after COVID. And then then they kicked us out, the orphan children, to the smaller studio, and there was no way. And the expense of being in the studio couldn't justify it. I mean, unless we wanted to double charge, and that's just stupid. We don't want to double charge people. So we've gone to Airbnbs. We did one in Arizona. That's when I had my cancer. We did, and again, I'm fine. And then we did Colorado, and in August, or no, March, we're actually going to be in Livermore. So we're seeking,
wow.
Yeah, we're seeking Airbnbs that have massive space that all of us can stay in and be together. So it's just like everything else with the Quilt Show, everything is moving and changing, always raising children, right?
I wanted to ask you about the legend shows.
Thank
Are
you.
you still doing legend shows, and how many do you think there are altogether?
So, oh gosh, I'm hoping Lilo can pull up that number, or Kristen. We were supposed to do Carrie and Nancy at Quilts Inc. Again, COVID hit. And so we were very apprehensive to get into small, tight places in each other's faces. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, so we decided to do a couple field pieces on them and called them out as legend, but they were very different from the original legends, which made us sick to our stomachs, because I mean, honestly, what would this industry be without those 2 women? So I don't know how many off the top of my head, but if you went and typed,
Lilo says,
okay, what?
12.
12. We've done 12. So we also do field pieces. Now, again, that had to stop because many things, but we do bring field pieces to the table, how we meet Nola Emery, how we go to San Francisco General, because we can't bring them into the studio. Thank you, Lilo.
Yeah. It's good to have somebody researching in the background.
Exactly.
So I wanted to ask you to repeat again, where can people follow along with your lessons? Because you mentioned Facebook Live and YouTube. Okay, so Monday, Wednesday. I'm not doing Fridays anymore. The pandemic is over, but it was such a great community. Again, I call it my little guild, that I'm going to keep doing it. 10 o'clock in the morning. You can go to YouTube and type in Alex Anderson and it will come up there. You can go to thequiltshow.com and there's typically a link. You can click there, or you can go to my professional Facebook and you can click there and it will be there. I try to keep it at a half hour. I also do interviews like I did with you, Martha. I mean, I interview people, I teach. We're going to go to Houston. If you can't go to Houston, I'll be doing some things about Houston. And it's kind of turned into this little fabulous, wonderful, organic thing. Does that answer it's free. Does that answer your question? Yeah. You interviewed me about textile box.
Yeah.
How circuitous is that?
Okay. I'd be remiss. Excuse me. Let me say one thing. I'd be remiss to not say this. When you join or renew, you will go into your dashboard, which is in the upper right, and you'll go in it. And our thank you to you for joining is a 25% off in our store, shopping spree.
Right.
So if you need stuff, that's the time to get it, but don't tell anybody I just said that.
I think my favorite comment that you made was you said that if you get complaints that there are too many art quilts and you get complaints that there are too many traditional quilts, then you've hit exactly that nice balance, which is where you want to be. I think that's a wonderful goal. And I think when you talk about you being a great family, I think that what the Quilt Show does is welcome everybody into that family. And it's just wonderful. If you do not currently subscribe to their newsletter, that's completely free. Go to thequiltshow.com and sign up for the newsletter. They tell you what's coming up in Textile Talks, as well as a lot of other great information and the puzzle. And,
Puzzle. Hey, Martha, we almost got divorced over that puzzle. Okay, let's just say that. John quit his job and came on board. And we're just scrambling as fast as we can. I think everybody thinks we're this, super oiled machine, exactly opposite. And I go into his office, I go, what are you doing? He goes, I'm making a jigsaw puzzle. I almost killed him. And the funny thing is, it's one of the most popular things.
Well, we all love a good puzzle. Yeah.
I want to say something else, just ask, and Lilo put it in the comments. It's 10 a.m. Pacific time.
Right. That's important. Yeah.
That's important.
Those time zones get me every time.
And if you can't watch it when it's live, it's still there. So like Textile Talks, you might have X here, but then it remains vibrant and alive, and then people can go see it.
Yeah. And so finally, I want to invite everybody to consider signing up for the Quilt Show. It really gives you such a wealth of information and inspiration. And I also want to invite everybody to consider joining SAQA. Again, the discount code is TALKS, TALKS. Next week. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, this is really important. Somebody asked, will Ricky still be doing the Quilt Show?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. He's moving down from his mountain. They're going to have a place in the United States as well as maybe Portugal. So no, he is not going anywhere, because guess what? This is all remote too. Doesn't matter. So yes, thank you.
It's wonderful. Yeah, thanks,
Sorry,
Alex.
Martha.
No, that's quite all right. I want to tell everybody that next week, Textile Talks will be back here. The International Quilt Museum will be interviewing Meg Cox about her experiences with textile art at Burning Man in the desert. And you really have to tune in, because some of those pieces are amazing. So we hope to see you next week. And thank you so much for joining us today. Alex, thank you. It's been wonderful.
Thank you.
All right.